Okay, hi everyone, welcome back to this video series on Windows Server 2012, Understanding File Servers. Before you configure a file server, you must understand what a file server actually does. File servers are machines on your network that store data files to share among network clients. The same machine can be a file server and another type of server. For example, a machine can both host network files and run Exchange Server 2013. Such a machine would have both file server and application server functions. Application servers are machines that host applications used by network clients. When setting up a file server, one of the most important things you will do is to set up work and personal folders for your users. I have been consulting for many years, and one thing I always stress to all my clients is to perform regular backups. After all, most organizations would not be able to recover after losing all of their data. Usually, companies back up only their servers, and this is why home folders are so important. Home folders are one of the most important file types on a file server. They are folders set up on servers for users to store information. Users have a location on the server to store their important data, and therefore that data will be backed up when a company does its regular backups. Configuring file servers. Now that you have an understanding of what a file server does, it's time to discuss how to configure these servers. Setting up a file server properly encompasses many steps. As always, one major concern is security. In the following sections, I will first describe how to share and publish online and offline files and folders. Then I will discuss two types of security: shared permissions and NTFS security that an administrator can set when sharing files or folders. Sharing folders. A file server is for sharing and storing data. To use one, you need to know how to set up a share or a shared folder on your server. A shared folder is exactly what it says. It's a folder that is shared on your network so that users can access the data within that folder. As an administrator, you have the ability to determine which users can access which files within a shared folder. One of the main goals of Active Directory is to make resources easy to find. Active Directory also makes it easy to determine which files are available to users. That being said, I will explain how Active Directory manages to publish shared folders, making Active Directory objects available to users. With Active Directory, a system administrator can control which objects users can see. The act of making an Active Directory object available is known as publishing. The two main publishable objects are printer objects and shared work folder objects. The reason I list shared work folders here is because personal folders for users are not normally published in Active Directory. You publish an object in Active Directory because you want an easy way for everyone to find a resource. Ordinarily, you don't want everyone accessing someone's home folder, and that is why you don't normally publish home folders. The general process for creating server shares and shared printers has remained unchanged from previous versions of Windows. You create the various objects, printers, or folders, and then enable them for sharing. To make these resources available via Active Directory, however, there's an additional step. You must publish the resource. Once an object has been published in Active Directory, clients will be able to find it. When you publish objects in Active Directory, you should know the server name and the share name of the resource. This information, however, doesn't matter to your users. A system administrator can change the resource to which an object points without having to reconfigure or even notify clients. For example, If you move a share from one server to another, all you need to do is update the shared folder's object properties to point to new location. Active Directory clients still refer to the resource with the same path and name as they used before. Exercise 4.1 will walk you through the steps for sharing and publishing a folder for use on your network. Exercise 4.1. Creating and publishing a shared work folder. 1. Create a new folder in the root directory of your C partition and name it test share. 2. Right-click on test share folder and choose share with specific people. In the file sharing dialog box, enter the names of the users to whom you want to share this folder. In the upper box, enter everyone, then click add. Note that everyone appears in the lower box. Click the permission level column next to everyone and choose read write from the down menu, then click share. You see a message that your folder has been shared. Click done. Open Active Directory users on computers, expand the current domain, select new shared folder. 6. In the new object shared folder from the dialog box, type shared folder test for the name of the shared folder. Type in the UNC path to the share, for example, // server a / test share. Click OK to create the share. Access-based enumeration. Access-based enumeration, ABE, is a feature included with Windows Server 2012, 2012 or 2. ABE allows your domain users to list only the files and folders to which they have access when browsing content on the file server. ABE helps eliminate domain users issues that are caused by users connecting to file servers and seeing large numbers of files and folders the user cannot contact. ABE allows users only to see files and folders to which they have access. Knowing the ABE is working on the Windows server helps you set up your permissions properly. If you need to give a user the ability to see files and folders that they might not be able to change, you need to allow them to at least read or view the directories. As an administrator, it's important that you understand that access-based enumeration is working on the server and what you need to do get a user around when needed. Configuring offline files. If you have been in the industry long enough, you have seen a major change in end user computers. Years ago, only a few select users had laptops. They were big and bulky, and they weighed almost as much as today's desktop computers. The pendulum has swung in the opposite direction. It probably seems like every one of your end users now has a laptop. As an IT administrator, this gives you a whole new set of challenges and problems to address. One challenge that you have to address is how users can work on files while outside of the office. If you have a user who wants to work at home, how do you give them the files they need to get their work done? The answer is offline folders. These folders contain data that can be worked on by users while outside the office. An IT administrator can set up offline folders through the use of group policy objects, GPOs. When you decide to make folders available for offline use, these folders need to synchronize with the laptops so that all of the data matches between both systems. As an administrator, one decision that you will need to make is when offline folders will be synchronized. There are 3 synchronization options that you can set in a GPO see figure 4.1. You can set up any combination of these options. When you select synchronize all offline files before logging off, offline folders are synchronized when the user logs off the network. When you select synchronize all offline files when logging on, offline folders are synchronized when the user logs onto the network. When you select synchronize offline files before suspend, offline folders are synchronized before the user does a system suspend. So I just in exercise 4.2, I will show you the steps necessary to configure offline folders by using a GPO. This exercise uses the Group Policy Management Console, GPMC. If your GPMC is not installed, use the Server Manager, MMC, to install it. Exercise 4.2, configure offline folder options. Open the Group Policy Management Console. 2. In the left pane, expand your forest, then your domain. Under your domain name, there should be a default domain policy. 3. Right-click the default domain policy, choose Edit. 4. In the User Configuration section, expand Policies, Administrative Templates, Network, and then click Offline Files. 5. Right-click Synchronize all offline files before logging off and choose Edit. The GPO settings dialog box appears. Choose the enabled option and click OK. 6. Right-click Synchronize all offline files when logging on and choose Edit. The GPO setting dialog box appears. Choose the enabled option, click OK. 7. Right-click Synchronize offline files before suspend, choose Edit. The GPO setting dialog box appears. Choose the enabled option in the Action drop-down box. Make sure Quick is selected, click OK. 8. Close the GPMC. Now that you have set up a GPO for synchronization, it's time to share a folder for offline usage. In exercise 4.3, you will set up a folder for offline access. In exercise 4.3, configuring a shared network folder for offline access. 1. Right-click the test shared folder that you created in exercise 4.1. Choose properties. 2. Click the sharing tab and then click the advanced sharing button. 3. When the advanced sharing dialog box appears, click the caching option. 4. When the offline settings dialog box appears, choose all files and programs that users open from the shares will be automatically available offline option. Click OK. 5. Click OK twice more to close the properties dialog box. Volume shadow copy service. Windows includes a feature that allows you to create a point-in-time image of one or more volumes. The volume shadow copy service, VSS, is the feature within Windows that allows an administrator to take an image shadow copy one or more volumes. Shadow copies have the ability to provide both file system and application. Shadow copies allow an administrator to back up shared folders to a remote location. Shadow copies are designed to help recover files that were accidentally deleted, that were overwritten, or that have become corrupt. One major advantage to shadow copies is that open files can be backed up. This means that even if users are currently working on files in a shared folder that has shadow copies enabled, the shadow copies will continue to function. Once administrators have configured the enable shadow copies using the computer management snap-in, network users can restore earlier versions of files. After the initial shadow copy of the shared folder is created, only changes are copied, not the entire file. You can enable shadow copies of entire volumes. The following are some of the settings that you can configure when setting up shadow copies. Schedule. You have the ability to set the schedule of the shadow copies. You can set this schedule to run daily, weekly, monthly, once at system startup, at logon, or when the system is idle. You can also set the time at which the shadow copy will run storage locations. An administrator needs to set the location of the shadow copy backup. If you are on a network, it is a good idea to place the shadow copy on a network drive. Maximum size. You can set a maximum size on your shadow copies, or you can specify that they have no size limit. One of the predetermined settings is 64 shadow copies per volume. In exercise 4.4, you'll set up a volume to make shadow copies every Monday at 7 a.m. To set up shadow copies, you will use the Computer Management Snap-in, MMC Snap-in. Exercise 4.4, configuring a shadow copy on a volume. Open Computer Management by pressing the Windows key and selecting Administrative Tools. Computer Management, expand to Storage, and then right-click Disk Management. Choose All Tasks, configure shadow copies. 3. When the shadow copies dialog box appears, click the Settings button. 4. When the Settings window appears, click the Schedule button. In the Schedule window, set the schedule task to weekly and the start time for 7 a.m. Uncheck all of the days of the week boxes except Monday. Click OK. 6. When the Settings window reappears, click OK. 7. If the Enable button is enabled, click it, then click OK. 8. Exit the Computer Management Console, MMC. To recover a previous version of a file from a shadow copy, you use the / server name / share name path. The operating system determines how you will gain access to the shared folders and shadow copies. Shadow copies are built into Windows XP, SP1, Windows Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows Server 2003, Windows Server 2008, 2008 R2, and Windows Server 2012 and 2012 R2. If you are using a different Microsoft operating system, you need to download the Shadow Copy Client Pack from the Microsoft Download Center, VssAdmin Command. Another way to create, configure, and manage shadow copies is by using the VssAdmin.exe command line utility. The VssAdmin.exe command allows you to create, delete, list, and resize shadow copies and shadow storage. One area where the VSS is very important is during backups. When you back up open files, the VSS copies the data and helps back up open files. For example, when you are backing up a Microsoft Exchange server using Unitrend's backup server, the VSS Exchange writer is used to see if the VSS writers are functioning properly. You can open a command prompt and type in the following statement: VssAdmin list writers. This command will show you all the different VSS service writers and how those VSS writers are functioning properly. Table 4.1 describes the VssAdmin.exe command and the different commands associated with the VssAdmin utility. Table 4.1 VssAdmin.exe commands command description. Add shadow copy adds a new volume shadow copy storage association. Create shadow creates a new volume shadow copy. Delete shadows deletes volume shadow copies. Delete shadow storage deletes the volume shadow copy storage associations. List provider lists registered volume shadow copy providers. List shadows lists existing volume shadow copies. List shadow storage list volume shadow copy storage associations. List volumes eligible for shadow copies. List writers lists subscribed volume shadow copy writers. Resize shadow storage resizes a volume shadow copy storage association. Revert shadow reverts a volume to a shadow copy. Query reverts. Where is the progress of in progress revert operations? Configuring permissions. You have gone through the steps necessary to set up a shared folder, publish it to Active Directory, and set it up for offline access. Now you will see how you can protect these files and folders by using permissions. You can secure folders using permissions in two ways, and you can secure files in one way. You can set up permissions and security through NTFS or through sharing. So I'm going to leave it here today for this video. If you like listening, please consider like, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you.